Hello and happy tubulations, everybody. Today I thought I'd do a little thing about, well, the shutting down of free speech and allowing politically connected people to control the public airwaves, which originally I think a lot of people forget that the public does own the airwaves, not the corporations. They're only allowed to use it. They're supposed to not misuse it, but we all know how that works out. There's a couple of things. There's the Fairness Doctrine. The Fairness Doctrine was a policy of the FCC. The FCC introduced it in 1949, and it required that the holders of broadcast licenses both to present controversial issues of public importance and to do so in a manner that was, in the Commission's view, honest, equitable, and balanced. Like Fox News, fair and balanced. The FCC eliminated the doctrine in 1987 under Mr. Reagan's again, and in August 2011 the FCC formally removed the language that implemented the doctrine. Now, thanks to Bill Clinton's deregulation, things have changed a little in the last few years. In 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 companies. By 2011, that same 90% was controlled by 6 companies, and I think they're going for 5 now. August 2011, the FCC formally removed the language that implemented the doctrine. Those networks that own all the pipes are General Electric, News Corp, which is where we get the fair and balanced thing, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. That's all, folks. No longer 50, and shrinking all the time. Is it any wonder that Americans are willing to elect somebody who's a known criminal, and 2 criminals, to the highest office in the nation? I mean, you can argue, okay, Trump is just a con man. I mean, his university and everything. So I've always thought for a long time, that Trump is nothing but controlled opposition. And with the complete disaster that was the Democratic primary, with so many anomalies that you could write a book on it. And this is what happens with media consolidation. It can be easily controlled by powerful people. As the corporations just gobble each other up, eventually there's going to be one monopoly company. Well, they might keep the names to make it appear that there's some sort of competition, but we all know better than that. There's never real competition allowed in the corporatocracy, because the corporatocracy is all, will be all. They'll get the right to surveil you, look right through your walls if they want to, while you're sleeping with your wife. It's all there, the technology. And of course, in the wake of the tragedy in Orlando, we right away see the War Hawk and Patriot Act encouraging candidates, Drumpf and Her Majesty. So we see the 2 candidates that are completely off the charts. No choice. It's sort of like those elections they used to have in the former Soviet Union, with 1 person on the ballot. Same thing's basically happening in America, because the corruption has gone on unchecked for so long. People really stopped being vigilant and bought into the whole narrative. And it all began with Ronald Reagan. It was, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, Brian Mulroney in Canada, the 3 evil purveyors of supply-side economics, and purveyors of weapons of war and terror. Yeah, well, I know some Reagan people might not like that, but it's the truth. He destroyed America. You can go back and look at what happened in the election in 1980, and there's even been books written about H.W.Bush as the head of the CIA sabotaging a rescue mission that Carter had arranged for the hostages in Iran. I mean, up until the Iranian hostage thing, Carter had been one of the most popular presidents of all time, probably because he said he wouldn't lie to people, and he didn't. But people wanted to be lied to, and this is why they began to let their guard down. And suddenly, for well-off people, things weren't bad. But for the working class, they only got tougher and jobs were scarcer. You can't argue that either of the candidates aren't part of the ruling class, aren't oligarchs, aren't part of the kleptocratic class. Criminal kleptocratic class. They don't want to let go of power. They're not going to let a little thing like democracy stand in the way. No, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And as less and less people have more and more power, the corruption, surprise, surprise, grows to endemic proportions, to disastrous proportions, to the fall of Rome proportions. But as long as Americans have their bread in circuses and big Hollywood movies produced by the same 6 companies that produce the 6 news channels, control all media, 6 companies, all media. And of course there's collusion. You don't think there's collusion? Who are the people that own the networks? Part of the same kleptocratic, plutocratic, parasitic class. I hear they're building a wall around the Wells Fargo Center in Philly in anticipation of, I guess they're frightened, because that's the only reason you build walls is to hide behind them. Maybe that's why Drumpf wants a big wall. He wants to hide behind it. His hair would be sticking over the thing anyway, and it wouldn't work. Mexicans would see him, laugh their asses off at him anyway, so, you know. But seriously, folks, Trump was never a serious candidate. He was intended to say outrageous things in support of the establishment candidate that they were determined to push, regardless of letting anything messy like democracy get in the way. And that's why they stole votes, they suppressed votes, they were involved in a criminal conspiracy. And Hillary's pretty good at criminal conspiracies, but we'll see how long Obama can protect her. And why is he protecting her? Could it be that some of those emails actually implicate Mr. Obama? Oh God, say it's not so. No. I'm sorry. Obama was picked by the establishment also. I often wonder when the last fair election in America was. Was it when machines replaced paper ballots? Because many other countries still use paper ballots and they count them in front of everybody. No questions. But it's so manipulated. It's so crooked. It spread so far that now people believe that Hillary is the candidate and she's going to be the president, and they had something to do with it. Aren't you proud? You can elect a criminal, but she is a woman. So if you're a sexist woman and that's all you look at, well, have fun trickling down with Hillary. I think the ignorance is what gets me. The fact that people don't look at the facts, that don't research things, and just take whatever that stupid television and these major news organizations that are censoring everything, that are rigging the whole thing. Why else would they have done what they did with Donald Trump? I mean, he's completely crazy, and they covered him constantly. And I've heard it said, oh, they did it for money for the ratings and everything. No, they didn't. They did it to install Queen Hillary and the First Lady, Bill, who will run the economy into the ground, no doubt. Just like they always do, because they're plutocrats. They're above the law. They don't care what people say because you're just riffraff to them. This aristocratic family that's involved in money laundering, that's been involved in so many criminal enterprises over the years, and allegations and rumors follow them wherever they go. But you'll still vote for them, or pretend to, because you really don't have a choice. The plutocrats and the globalists have taken over a long time ago. It all began in the year 2000. Americans weren't outraged. They accepted the lie that G.W.Bush was actually their president. And anybody's going to look good after that. I mean, even Obama, who was basically another neoliberal, was at least a little better because he had a brain, but he was more deceptive too because he had a brain. You know, I mean, G.W. just did whatever Cheney told him anyway because he didn't have half a brain. I mean, he just was a clueless moron. Now, the equal time rule is a rule that specifies U.S. radio and television broadcast stations must provide an equivalent opportunity to any opposing political candidates who request it. Now, there were some exemptions to this, and this sort of was a loophole in it, and of course, you know what corporations do with loopholes, they jump through them as quickly as possible. Okay. The exceptions to the equal time rule was if it was in a documentary, or a news interview, or scheduled newscast, or on-the-spot news event. The equal time rule does not apply. Since 1983, there we go with Reagan again, political debates not hosted by the media station are considered news events and as a result are not subject to the rules. So, skirts around anything that smacks of democracy or democratic ownership of the airwaves. Such is life. I remember a time when I thought Americans were brave. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel that many Americans have allowed fear to totally destroy their own constitution. Your own founding fathers would have been horrified by what's going on. The surveillance state, the monitoring of personal communications. You know, it used to be, even when they were doing criminal investigations, the FBI, in order to do a wiretap, had to have a pretty good reason. They had to go to court to get it approved. Oh, now, come on, all that's, been thrown out. That's from another age when there was some semblance of democracy before the whole thing became corrupt, before the whole thing became rotten and hollowed out from the core, which is just going to continue with either of the presumptuous nominees. If either one of them gets in, then the downward slide will just continue. And the only hope I see at this point is if, for some reason, there are uncorruptible people in the FBI who are going to leak this information on what Her Majesty has done. And arrest the woman. I mean, even Putin claims to have her emails. WikiLeaks is about to release them. There just seems to be this swirling thing around the Clintons, but they're hoping or thinking that they can get away with it one more time because people are too stupid. They'll listen to anything this pair of crooks says. They can't see past the end of their noses, people. Where's the world headed? With climate change and Hillary's support of fracking? I mean, either Hillary or Trump are going to be in favor of the TPP. Obama's pushing it like it was the next greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's a disaster. It's a disaster for all the countries, for the working people in the countries. It's not a disaster for the plutocrats who will consolidate their control. What a fucked up world. And I kind of usually like to joke around in my videos and poke fun. But I just put this one together because I don't feel funny tonight. I feel kind of angry, depressed, frustrated. I really pay too much attention to politics. But I realize what is riding on those politics and whether they are honest or remain completely corrupt and sold out as they are now. Come on, American people. You're better than that. You're better than those two bozos that they've put up to represent you. It's all one party. The Republicans and Democrats are one party. They are different wings of the same party, but they're in that big group, and they're in that special club. And like George Carlin said, you ain't in it, and you're never going to be in it, because they don't give a damn about the people. They only care about money. It's their God. It's what they worship. But there's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women, even if they're psychopaths, according to Madeleine Albright, the woman who said it was worth it that 500,000 Iraqi children died because of the sanctions that were placed on them. Starving people, starving children, and they're supposed to, and she's saying there's a special place in hell. I think she's already got a room booked there, along with all her plutocratic friends. So I'll close this one off. Another pro-Bernie, anti-establishment rant that I like to think is perfectly logical. But how do you project logic in an illogical, insane, cruel, uncompassionate world? I guess you just got to keep trying, eh? Take care, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Good night.